Hi everyone and welcome to Book Boop. Today I'll be doing my November wrap-up. So I'll be talking about all the books that I read during the month of November. I read 5 total, which is really exciting. But before I jump into that, I want to say thank you to my subscriber base. I have finally hit 50 subscribers, which is super exciting. I am so glad that you're here. I'm so glad that you've been following me along on my book journey, and I appreciate you trusting me with your time, and I'm excited for all the videos ahead and you all following along with me. So thank you. I appreciate it. But let's go ahead and jump into my November books. 4 out of the 5 books that I read this month I borrowed from the library, so I will not personally have them physically to show them to you. I already took them back to make sure whoever wanted to read them next was able to get to them when they wanted to. Didn't want to just hold on to them until I had this video. So the very first book I will show you today is one I actually own. The others will be library books, so I apologize I can't hold them up for you to see the covers, even though they're beautiful. I highly recommend you go look up these books that I mentioned today so you can see those gorgeous covers, because that's half the fun of reading books, is seeing the beautiful covers. So the first book I'm going to jump into today is Caravelle by Stephanie Garber. Let me get it in the shot. I'll get over here. It's a little better. So this book I actually finished right smack at the beginning of November. I actually finished it really late on October 31st, kind of into November. And this book was insane. A very quick recap, if I can. There's a lot of twists and turns in this book, so it's hard to recap it. We're following 2 sisters who live under their very abusive and controlling father, and they both want to be a part of this show that they've heard about from their grandmother called Caravelle, or Caravelle, I'm not sure which way it's pronounced. And it's not only a show, but it's an interactive game, and people will compete to win the game so they can get a prize at the end. Caravelle is run by this guy called Legend, which is very aptly named because he is legendary. And the oldest sister, Scarlett, has been writing to Legend year after year after year, asking for tickets to be invited to Caravelle. And finally, one year, she and her sister are invited. So they go, and they end up being a lot more a part of the game than they realized. And the tagline for Caravelle is, remember, it's only a game. So you can't trust your eyes, your ears, your senses, because all of it could be an illusion. This book was insane. There were so many crazy twists and turns of this book. I had trouble keeping up half the time, and it really keeps you on your toes. I really enjoyed it a lot. Probably the only thing I wasn't a huge fan of necessarily is there was a lot of use of colors in it. We follow the main character, Scarlett, where it's in her perspective, and she kind of uses colors of how she feels. And sometimes that was a little bit of a disconnect for me, but other than that, this book was so much fun. I give it 4 out of 5 stars. It really kept me on the edge of my seat. So if you would like a fast-paced read, I would definitely go for this. It was a lot of fun. So that was Caravelle. The next one, and I apologize, I have a list in front of me so I don't forget the names of the books and the authors, because I don't want to have a brain fart and not remember. So the next one I read after that was called Anyas Ghost. It is a graphic novel, and it is by Vera Brosgol. And this one was a lot of fun. I don't normally read graphic novels, and I've really enjoyed reading a few graphic novels this year. It's been a lot of fun. But Anyas Ghost follows this girl who is a Russian immigrant, and she so desperately wants to fit into American life. She wants to kind of be that kind of typical fit-in thing for high school. She wants to be popular. She wants to be thinner than she is. She wants to have better clothes, those kind of things. Because of that, she's kind of grumpy about the fact that she's this Russian immigrant, and she's not feeling very proud of her heritage as she should. And one evening when she's out in the woods kind of grumbling about her life, she ends up falling into an old well and finds this skeleton in the bottom of the well. And not just a skeleton, there's also a ghost attached to the skeleton. When Anya is inevitably rescued from this old well, the ghost goes with her, and this graphic novel just follows along with her having this ghost living with her. About the first half of it was pretty funny and kind of fun, and then it gets pretty dark and intense towards the end, which I absolutely loved. I thought that was a lot of fun. So I highly recommend Anyas Ghost. It was a really quick read, a really quick graphic novel to read, but I enjoyed it a lot. I thought the ending was really cool. I loved the twist that it had in it, so I highly recommend reading it. If you're not a graphic novel person, that's a fun one to jump into and kind of dabble into that type of genre. The next one after that, and I gave that 4 stars, can't remember if I said that or not. After that, I read The Light Between Worlds by Laura E. Weymouth, or Weymouth, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I talked about this book quite a bit in a previous video I did where that was called Literary Worlds Collide. Sorry, I'm struggling with talking today. I kind of talked about the correlation between Light Between Worlds and the Chronicles of Narnia. So I delve a lot deeper into A Light Between Worlds, or The Light Between Worlds there, if you want to check out that video, and I can leave a link down below for you for that. But this book was also 4 out of 5 stars, even though I had trouble deciding how to rate it because it was so different than anything I've read before. It had a lot darker feel to it and a lot heavier topics in it than I'm used to, but I actually enjoyed it a lot. So this story follows the perspective of 2 different sisters. These sisters, during World War II, they were whisked away to this magical world during a bomb raid to this place called the Woodlands, kind of very similar to Narnia. They ended up living 6 years of their life there, and then they are whisked back to our world and find that no time has passed at all, and they are all of a sudden the same age they were when they left, and they've lost these 6 years of their lives they had in the Woodlands. This story follows kind of their adjustment back into our society, and one of the sisters does really well and she wanted to come back. She never felt quite at home in the Woodlands, and the other sister desperately wants to go back to the Woodlands because she feels that is her true home, and she actually has a really hard time adjusting. I really enjoyed this book a lot, even though it was pretty dark. I will tell you, if you are interested in this book, it does have some trigger warnings for self-harm, so I will throw that out there in case that is something that could be a difficult topic for you. I would avoid this book, but it was really good. It's also a great book to read during the winter because a lot of the story takes place during the winter, so it kind of has a little bit more of that winter kind of Christmassy feel, even though it does have some heavy topics in it. But I highly recommend it. This was, I think, a debut novel for Weymouth, but I highly recommend it, and it has a gorgeous cover. I wish I could show it to you right now. But again, check out that video that I'll link down below if you want to hear more about that story and also see the cover because I do have the book there. After that, I read Midnight at the Electric by Jodi Lynn Anderson. I truly love this book, and I have really come to love Jodi Lynn Anderson's work. I originally read the Maybird trilogy by her and was kind of like on it, and then after that I read My Diary from the Edge of the World, which was earlier this year, which was so good, and I really enjoyed it a lot. But Midnight at the Electric was a blast to read. It's basically a book within a book within a book. It takes through 3 different perspectives. We have this girl who's in the far distant future who has been chosen as a very few to go and live on Mars and basically try to get Mars ready for people from Earth to be able to move to one day. And while she's preparing for this, she ends up finding that she actually has one more relative left. She didn't think she had any more relatives, and she finds out she has this older relative, so she goes and visits this relative and stays with her while she's training to go to Mars. And she ends up delving into her history and just finding out more about her life, and she ends up the story's in her perspective, and then she ends up reading a diary of one of her descendants, and in that diary they also read letters from another descendant, so it's a lot of different time periods and different perspectives, and it was so much fun. It was very heartfelt and heartwarming, and it was a beautiful book, and so I highly recommend it. It was so much fun to read, and it was a quick read because it was fast-paced, and I just want to know what was going to happen. I give that one 4 stars as well. After that, the very last book I read this month I was so excited about, and that is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. I've been really wanting to read this series. It is a trilogy, and I'm looking forward to reading the next 2 books in the trilogy this month in December. But I did actually end up enjoying this book quite a bit. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars as well. I had a really hard time getting into the book, though. It took me quite a ways in until I actually was enjoying it, because it really throws you into the book right from the start, and I had no idea what was going on. I felt so confused, and I was having trouble getting connected to the characters. But if it wasn't for Lila Bard, who is an incredible character in that book, I probably would have had a really hard time connecting. But I really enjoyed this book a lot, and I'm looking forward to the other 2. I just said utter. Oh my goodness. The other 2. Probably the one thing about this book that I did struggle with as well, other than just kind of having trouble getting connected with the characters, was the fact that the book kind of set up this, seemed like kind of like this epic quest type thing, and so I thought the whole trilogy was going to be that, but it ended up wrapping up that quest within that one book, and so now I'm not sure what the rest of the series is going to be, so I'm excited to find out and see where it goes. Well, I'm going to have to go ahead and wrap up here, but as all the books that I read in November, and they were a lot of fun to read, and I can't wait for December. On this side of the video over here is my logo. If you want to click on that, you can subscribe to my channel and join me on my book journey. On this side over here is another video you can watch right now if you'd like to watch another one of my books. If there's any books that I've read today that you've read, please let me know what you think about them down below, or let me know what you read in November. I would love to talk about it. But thank you so much for watching. You rock, and don't forget to keep reading. Bye!